Hey, what is up guys and welcome back to the FCS Football channel, and today we are back with my Premier League predictions for the 22-23 season, given that the season starts on Friday with Arsenal versus Crystal Palace. Now in today's video we're going to go through 20th to 1st, predicting every single position. We're then also going to do PFA Player of the Year, Young Player of the Year, Top Goal Scorer, Top Assister, Flop and Transfer Flop, as well as the best signing if I haven't mentioned that already. Now without further ado, should we just get into it? Let's do it. First up, in 20th place, I have
Bournemouth.
Now, Bournemouth. Look, they had a good season in the Championship last year, coming second, picking up 88 points under Scott Parker. However, I don't think they'll kind of come into this season and perform anyway. Well, obviously nowhere near as they did last year in the Championship. I think they will go down in bottom. I think you look at their signings in Joe Rothwell, Ryan Fredericks and Marcus Tavernier. None of them are particularly brilliant. None of them are players you look at and think he will keep you in the Premier League. They're okay. And I think that's kind of what this Bournemouth team are. And I think all the teams around them, all the other promoted teams have improved and Bournemouth just haven't. While they haven't lost any players, it's really the fact they haven't gained anyone. They've been in the Championship for 2 years. That squad is looking more like a Championship side than a Premier League side. And they need to sign more. And I'm not sure they will, to be honest. Now, Bournemouth, they do play a 4-3-3 under Scott Parker. And largely, it's been a success under him. And undoubtedly, their key player for this season will be Dominic Solanke. He scored 29 goals in 46 Championship games last season. So he's a bagsman in the Championship. However, has he ever done it in the Premier League? Not really. And I think he will struggle to do that again this time out. I don't really see a world where Bournemouth stay up. I think their squad's not good enough. I think if you look at that squad, for me, Mark Tavers in goal, is he good enough? I have my very big doubts over that. I think they will go down and I think they will be comfortably bottom. 20th place goes to Bournemouth. Now, before we go into my 19th team, I do want to preface this by saying I do think between 19th and 16th are very interchangeable. I think all of them could be in danger and at the same time they could all survive. But in 19th, I'm going to go for Fulham. Obviously, Championship winners last year out under Marco Silva, and they had a very, very good campaign. Do I see that happen again this year? Not so much. I mean, Marco Silva as a manager is very, very up or down, isn't he? Very similar to Fulham, yo-yo. We saw at Hull, Marco Silva was fantastic. First half of the season under Watford, he was great. Wasn't great second half under Watford. And then at Everton, again, not great. Although, did fantastically well at Fulham last year to get them up, playing that 4-2-3-1 system. However, they have lost a couple of players, majorly being Fabio Cannavaro, their number 10. However, I do think their signings are quite good and will help to keep them in the league. Very, very impressed with João Palhinha from Sporting Lisbon. He's a player that last summer I was saying Manchester United should be looking at. So the fact Fulham's gone and got him this year is very, very good and very impressive business. Andreas Pereira from Manchester United has also joined Fulham for £9 million. I think he could be a good signing and undoubtedly he will play that number 10 role if they do continue with this 4-2-3-1. But at the same time, if they do decide to change to maybe a more defensive 4-3-3, he can play as an 8 alongside a Tom Kearney or a João Palhinha. They're looking to bring in some big players. Bernd Leno could be coming in. If they can sign Bernd Leno, fantastic business. And he's undergoing his medical as we speak. So that deal looks next to done. I think undoubtedly this season though, the main man for Fulham will be Alexander Mitrovic. The man scored bags of goals last season. In fact, he broke the goal scoring record in the Championship last year, scoring 43 goals in 44 games. That is a ridiculous record. He's also provided 7 assists that season. So that's like Lionel Messi numbers in La Liga. Like more goal involvements than games. And if he can bring half of that, then Fulham could well be fighting for that 16th, 17th spot clear of relegation. However, look, we've seen Mitrovic in the Premier League before. He's never really done it, and we know he can do it in the Championship. But can he transition that into the Premier League? I have my doubts. So I'm having to put Fulham in 19th. With Fulham in 19th, in 18th, I've got a real surprise. And a lot of people, this could turn out to be really wrong. But I'm going to go for Brentford. Now, they've signed okay. Aaron Hickey from Bologna. He's a right-footed left-back. Chances are he'll probably play as a right-back this season. Lewis Potter from Hull. Ben Mee, Thomas Strakosha. And potentially they're getting Damsgaard from Sampdoria. However, their big departure is Christian Eriksen, and he's a player that they cannot replace. Now, Brentford had a good year last season, finishing 13th, and they'll be very, very happy with that. But I feel like this season, without Christian Eriksen, a bit of second season syndrome will kick in. I think they will be in trouble. Before they signed Eriksen last season, they were in danger, and they were in and around that relegation zone. Now they've lost him, I think they could be back there, to be honest. There's a lot of uncertainty. What formation and what system will this Brentford team play? At the start of the season, they played a 3-4-3 or a 3-5-2. However, with the signing of Christian Eriksen, they did move to a 4-3-3, and that's where they played their best stuff. With Eriksen leaving, whether they'll go back to a 3 at the back or they'll stick with a 4 will be it's a mystery, and something we'll have to wait and find out. But I do worry for their key player, Ivan Toney. Ivan Toney was at the front end of the season, was slightly suffering due to his role, because he was having to be the creator and the goal scorer. With Eriksen coming in, he wasn't that. He was able to kind of more focus on being that number 9 and scoring the goals to keep them up, which he did. Now Eriksen's gone again. Will he kind of pick up that kind of creative side again, and will his goal scoring side suffer because of that, or will they be able to bring in a replacement for Christian Eriksen? I'm not sure, and I think that's kind of why I'm putting them in 18th. I think there's a lot of uncertainty at this Brentford side, and like I said, a bit of second syndrome could see them go down. 18th, Brentford. In 17th, I've got Nottingham Forest. Now, I think they've had a great transfer window. Taiwo Awoyai from Union Berlin, Nico Williams, Niakate, Omar Richards, Jesse Lingard, Dean Henderson, and Oriol Mangala. What a window. And I know what I said about Bournemouth. They've not really signed anyone who are Premier League quality and kind of will keep them up. I think Nottingham Forest have done exactly that. I think they've signed players that are ready to play in the Premier League and have points to prove. Look at Dean Henderson and Jesse Lingard. It's the World Cup this year. They've got to be at their best if they want to be at the World Cup this winter, even. And at the moment, they're not going to be on the plane, are they? Because they've not been good enough at Manchester United. Now, if they play well and they earn their spot in the World Cup squad, what does that mean? That means survival, and that means safety for Nottingham Forest. I think they are two great signings. I think Awoyai will score goals. Niakate will be a good defender. And I think all in all, they've done a magnificent job of bringing what was a Nottingham Forest side that wasn't meant to get promoted, was meant to be mid-table, maybe just pushing for playoffs if they're really lucky, to winning the playoffs. And this season now, they've made the squad look way more like a Premier League club than the likes of Bournemouth have. Something else about Steve Cooper is he is flexible with his kind of system. Now, he will play a 3 at the back. There is no doubt about that. But how he will play a 3 at the back will be the interesting one. Will he play a 3-5-2 or will he play a 3-4-3? And I think what makes some of these signings so genius is the flexibility to be able to still do that. Awoyai will play as their number 9, but then you've got Brennan Johnson and you've got Jesse Lingard, both capable of playing as a number, as a kind of a 10 or as a winger, meaning he's got flexibility in that team, which I think is absolutely fantastic for them. And I just think, look, if Nottingham Forest can get all these players gelled together, playing from the same hymn sheet, they will survive. I think they've done really, really well. Key players for them, I would probably say either Jesse Lingard or Dean Henderson. Like I said, they're the two players that are competing for potential England spots. They need to be at their best to kind of get into that England squad. And if they can do that, that means, again, good things for Nottingham Forest and they will survive. I think they will survive. I think I'm going to give it to Dean Henderson. Dean Henderson, if he can have a stormer of a season, get into that England squad, obviously he's got a point to prove. He wants to be Manchester United number 1. He needs to have a good year. If he does, well then, just like Sheffield United, they will survive. So in 16th, we have Southampton. Now, Southampton, I think they've done okay, but I think they will be in danger. I think you look at the other teams around them last season, they've all improved. Southampton haven't really done that, in my opinion. I think you look at some of their signings. Gavin Bazunu, who was at Portsmouth last season. Sekou Mara. Does many people really know much about him? I can't say I know much about him. Romeo Lavia from Man City. Is he good enough to start in a Premier League club? Probably not. And Joe Aribo. Yes, he did well last year at Rangers. But again, is he Premier League ready? We kind of have to wait and find out. And I think Southampton, they're just inconsistent. And I don't think that will be different this year. I think Ralph Hasenhüttl at times is doing a job with 2 hands tied behind his back. We've given how much money he has to spend. And this year, I don't think he spent that money particularly well. I do think they will be in danger. And like I said, look, I could see 16th to 19th being interchangeable. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Southampton fall into the drop zone whatsoever. When it comes to kind of how they're going to play this season, I'm not 100% sure. Now, traditionally, they have played a 4-4-2 under Ralph Hasenhüttl with kind of two strikers, Ward-Prowse and Romeu as your 2 DMs. However, with the signing of Joe Aribo, that could become a 4-3-3. And I think it probably does, although Joe Aribo can certainly play as a number 9, like we saw at the end of last season in Rangers' Europa League campaign. So it's all down to kind of how Ralph Hasenhüttl sees this Southampton team to come together. But I do think they could be in danger. Star player, of course, is going to be James Ward-Prowse. If he is anywhere near his best, they'll do fine this season. They'll survive relegation. But I mean, that's a lot to kind of put on James Ward-Prowse. They could be in danger. In 15th, I have Everton. Now, look, they've done okay this summer, deal-wise. James Tarkowski, I think, is a decent signing. I like Dwight McNeil. And if they can bring in Andrissa Gana-Gueye back from PSG, I think that's good business. And I think Everton will be better than they were last season. Obviously, they was a mess last season, only surviving by 4 points. I think they will be better this year under Lampard, although I feel like there is still questions to be asked about Frank Lampard and this Everton team. For one, what formation are they going to play? Now, Lampard has traditionally used a back 4 at Derby and Chelsea. At Everton, he's not really been able to do that, well, because of how bad this Everton team is defensively. In pre-season, they tried to go back to a back 4 in one of their games, and it went badly. So they went back to a back 3. So I do think we'll probably see that. Undoubtedly this season, their key player will be Dominic Calvert-Lewin. I don't see loads of goals in that front 3 of Gordon, Gray, Dwight McNeil, Townsend, and Calvert-Lewin. I see Calvert-Lewin kind of being the only one you can look at to think he will score 10 plus goals this season. That will keep us up. And I think that's what's important for Everton. And if Calvert-Lewin can and does do that, then they'll be absolutely fine. In 14th, I'm going to go with Leeds United. I'll keep this one quite quick. I think they've generally done quite well. Yes, they've lost some key players in Rafinha and Calvin Phillips. But in general, they've signed well in Brian Aronson, Luis Sincera, Tyler Adams, Christensen from Salzburg, and Mark Roja. I think they're all generally quite good deals. I think Leeds have done well this summer. And I think they'll just kind of kick on from where they left off last season. Obviously, doing quite well under Jesse Marsch at the end of last season, despite the fact they were in a relegation scrap, weren't they? I think they will play a 4-2-3-1, and I think their key player this year will be their new number 10, Brian Aronson, signed him for £30 million from Salzburg. Marsch has worked with him before, and I think he knows how to get the best out of him. And you don't spend £30 million on someone from Austria without knowing what kind of he brings and how to get the best out of him. And I think we will see Jesse Marsch get the best out of him. And I think they will have a strong finish and a strong campaign finishing mid-table, which I think they'll take given what happened last year. Again, keeping it quick, Crystal Palace in 13th. They've done okay. They've no real major sales, but they've signed Czech Doucouré, Chris Richards, Johnson and Iwobi on a free from Derby County, who in their pre-season game against Manchester United was very, very good. So it'll be interesting to see how he actually gets on this season and how much of a first team kind of impact he can make. I do like Crystal Palace. I think Patrick Vieira has got him going in the right direction. I think they'll be happy with 13th. I don't think they can complain about that whatsoever. I do maybe think they could have brought in another midfielder alongside Doucouré. Obviously, Conor Gallagher has left. Do I think kind of Kouyaté and Milivojevic are at the level? Probably not. And playing Jeffrey Schlupp in central midfield isn't probably something I would recommend too often. But look, I think they'll be fine. They'll finish 13th. And again, I think they'll be happy with that. They should be happy with anything but fighting relegation. So 13th, I think they'll be happy with. 13th. And something they will be unhappy with is who I've got in 12th, Brighton. Now, obviously, they've got a rivalry, is it? I wouldn't really call it a derby. They've lost a key player in Yves Bissouma. They've signed 2 players in Julio Asensio and Simon Adingara. I don't know anything about these 2 players, to be honest. So the impact they'll make this season is an unknown to me. But I'm a big fan of Graham Potter, and I'm a big fan of Brighton because of him. And while they have lost Bissouma, I think they will probably sign 1 or 2 more players, and I think they will kick on. And they will be just as good as they were last year. Maybe even better. Now, Brighton will play either a 3-4-3 or a 3-5-2, depending on kind of who the personnel. I think they probably will go with a 3-4-3. And look, I think striker-wise, I think they're always an issue. I don't see a reliable goal scorer in this Brighton team. When you look at the other teams around them, I see one in Everton. I see one in a Crystal Palace. And I think that's kind of where I've always doubted Brighton. But I think they will do well this season as they did last year. I think their key player will be Trossard. I think with Cucurella potentially out the door to either a Manchester City or a Chelsea for around £50 million, Trossard, as always, will be a player that they look to for creativity. And while I don't think his end product is always there, I think he is largely a very good player. So Trossard will be my key player for Brighton. In 11th, we've got Wolves. I think they've had an underwhelming transfer window. Nathan Collins from Burnley, who I think is a good centre-back for 22 million. Maybe a slight overpay there, but look, he's young. He'll do well. And Hwang Hee-chan has joined officially now on a permanent deal after a good loan spell last year. And Wolves, look, they were a bit, I don't know what the word would be, hit and miss last season. First half of the season, they were great. Second half, not so much. And I feel like they need to sign more players to kind of, again, be hitting those European spots, which of course will be their target. I think Bruno Lage is a good manager and he's proven that. I think they just need a little bit more. I do think they will play a 3-4-3 or a 3-5-2 similarly to Brighton. And I think they might go with that 3-5-2, you know. I think that back five, a lot of talent, especially young talent in Max Kilman and Nathan Collins, if they can get them both into the same starting 11. I think in midfield, Ruben Neves, John Moutinho are a good midfield too. I think you bring in Morgan Gibbs-White, who had a very good loan spell at Sheffield United last season. I think they'll be very, very good this year. And with Pedro Neto fully fit now, and hopefully we'll start to see more of João Jimenez at his best, I do think this is a very good and strong Wolves team who, yes, they need another signing or two, but I think they probably will get that and they will be very strong this season. 11th for Wolves. In 10th place, I'm going to go for Newcastle. Now, I think they were the team of the back half of last season, weren't they? They were absolutely fantastic under Eddie Howe, and I think they'll continue that going into this season. They've signed well in Sven Botman and Nick Pope, and of course they made Matt Targett kind of official and permanent. They've not really sold anyone significant, which is great, and I like it, Newcastle. I think Eddie Howe is a manager who, I think at Bournemouth, he had a lot of potential. Then they got relegated, and I thought maybe he's not all that he's cracked up to be. At Newcastle, he's proven that maybe he is. I think they've done really well. I think Newcastle's aim for this season should be to get 10th and just kind of put out any doubt of relegation, and then they can move on and try and push for maybe Europe in a year or two. And I think they'll kind of do that. Now, they will play a 4-3-3 under Eddie Howe, with undoubtedly their key player being Bruno Guimaraes. Was a revelation last season coming in January, and I think he'll be the same again this year. I think he's fantastic, Bruno Guimaraes, and I'm surprised someone like a Man United or an Arsenal didn't go in for him, because I think he would fit their teams absolutely perfectly. I really, really do like Bruno Guimaraes, and I think he will be a key player for them going into this season. And if he can play well, Newcastle will comfortably finish 10th. In 9th, I've got Leicester. Now, Leicester, look, they're a bit of a dodgy one at the moment. I think Kasper Schmeichel looks like he's going to leave. Tielemans could always leave. Maddison has big suitors in Newcastle. Around a £40 million bid has been put in. And they've not signed anyone yet. What is going on there? I thought, you look at their team, they've got worse. And I didn't think they were great last year. I think they could struggle. They kind of snuck into 8th last year, out due to the other top teams around them, in the likes of Wolves, kind of slipping up. And I don't think you can really hope for that again this year. I do think they will eventually sign some players, but when and who, I'm not 100% sure. And look, even when you look at kind of the likes of Areola Lookman, he's left. Obviously on a loan last year at Leicester. So their squad is worse than they were last year. I think they could struggle. Now, Leicester will probably play a 4-3-3. I do think they will kind of see James Maddison starting on that right-hand side and moving central with Ricardo Pereira bombing forward. I think that's where Leicester will be at their best, because they will want to get all three of Ndidi, Tielemans and Dewsbury Hall into a midfield. And they'll obviously want James Maddison, who I think will be their key player this season. He was absolutely fantastic coming at the back end of last season. And if they want to kind of be pushing for these European spaces, they will need him at his best once again. And I think he probably will be. I like James Maddison. I like Leicester. 9th. In 8th, I've got Aston Villa. Now, Aston Villa, look, I think they've signed well. Diego Carlos, Felipe Coutinho and Glenn Kamara being the three big moves of this summer for them. I think they're generally quite good deals, and I think they're improvements on what they had. I think Glenn Kamara, again, is a player that a lot of people want Manchester United to sign. So the fact Aston Villa have gone and done it proves how good and big of a signing this is for them. Now, Villa will ultimately be disappointed with their campaign last time out. Last year, the aim was to be competing for European spaces after Jack Grealish left for so much money, and they kind of put that money into the squad. However, it wasn't the case. They finished 14th. Obviously, Dean Smith got sacked. Gerrard came in. Gerrard's a good manager. He proved that at Rangers, and I think this year we'll see kind of more what we expected of Aston Villa this year. Now, Villa will almost certainly play a 4-3-3, but kind of that right wing spot for me is the only kind of question mark. I think we'll know largely the team. That from back four will be Martinez, Cash, Carlos, Mings, and Digne. It will be Kamara, McGinn, who is now the Aston Villa captain, and Jacob Ramsey in midfield three. Coutinho will play off the left. Watkins will play it up front. And then that right wing role, will it be Emi Buendia? Will it be a Leon Bailey, who I think it probably should be? That's the question marks. I mean, theoretically, even Watkins could move out to that right-hand side, and we see, what's his name? Danny Ings come in. Key player-wise, I think you look at Coutinho, and I just think, if you can get the best out of Felipe Coutinho, he's a difference maker. He's a player that can score a goal, create something out of nothing. And if they can get him at his best, he will be their key player, without a doubt. So I'm going to go with Coutinho for their key player. As we move into 7th, and we have West Ham United. Now, West Ham have signed brilliantly. Scamacca from Sassuolo is an unbelievable deal. He's an absolute brilliant striker. Complete forward, the modern day striker. And I think he will suit West Ham perfectly. Nayef Algard from Rennes is a good signing. Flynn Downs to replace Mark Noble is a good deal. And Alphonse Areola on a permanent deal, again, I think is a good money. They've not lost anyone significant. Only Yarmolenko, Fredericks and Noble, kind of the first team players who have left. But they knew that was going to come. And none of them were first team regulars. The only thing I look at for West Ham is what system do they play now? Obviously, Scamacca will play up top. Will they go to a 4-4-2 with Antonio and Scamacca? Or will they kind of stick with their 4-2-3-1 and Antonio becomes a bench option? I'm not 100% sure. However, I do reckon they might go for a 4-4-2. Something David Moyes likes to play. And we have seen at times at West Ham he used that 4-2-2. And I think Antonio and Scamacca could play quite well as a duo together. I think it's an interesting summer for West Ham this year. And again, they're going to be looking to kind of solidify themselves as the best of the rest. And I think 7th place, again, they have to be happy with that. And if they can push slightly higher up, that's just icing on top of the cake. I think 7th is what they should be aiming for. And I think they will do it. Their key player this year, I don't think there's any doubt, it's Declan Rice. If Declan Rice continues playing at the level he is, they will be absolutely fine. They will get European football this year because he is unbelievable. I genuinely believe Declan Rice can play for any top team in Europe. He's absolutely fantastic. Declan Rice, alongside Thomas Tuchel in the midfield too, will see them get 7th place. Easy for me. 7th place, West Ham United. In 6th place, and starting off the top 6, I've got Chelsea. And I don't think Chelsea will do well this season. I think they've done all right in the market, signing Sterling and Koulibaly, and they could be getting Cucurella. However, Rudiger left. Azpilicueta could be leaving. Werner could be leaving. And with Romelu Lukaku, obviously they're the only player, for me, you look at that in that Chelsea team and think he will score bags of goals. I worry where goals are going to come from for this Chelsea team. Creativity, I think, is still a little bit of an issue as well. I think they could be in trouble. I think the teams around them have got better. I do worry. Look, we know Chelsea will continue with this 3-4-3 or 3-4-2-1. It's just who will be that main number 9 scoring all your goals. I think all the other teams in the top 6 have players that will score loads of goals. I don't think Chelsea particularly do. I worry for them. And I just don't even know who that key player is. Is it Havertz? Is it Sterling? Is it Reece James? Is it Ben Chilwell? Who obviously scored a lot of goals from fullback last year. I think Chelsea are in trouble. 6th for Chelsea. And look, but before I go into 5th, I do want to preference this by saying, well, and even include Chelsea in this. From 6th to 3rd, I think they're all fighting for the same 3rd and 4th spot. And I think it will be close. So, while I do think Chelsea will finish 6th, and I think this team in Spurs will finish 5th, if they come 4th or 3rd, I'm not saying it's going to be out of nowhere, like I think potentially West Ham finishing 5th would be. Now, Spurs, I think their transfer window has been a bit overrated. I think they've done well, but I think a lot of the credit they got is because of how early they got their deals done. And people expected, given how early they got a lot of their deals done, they expected a lot more to come. Generally, I think, yes, Basuma is a good deal. Jed Spence is a risk. Perisic is an okay deal. Pretty good. And Longley is a risk again. Richarlison, for the money they spent on him, massive risk. They sold Steven Bergwijn, who I think that's a pretty good departure. He didn't really play much. And I think the greatest asset that Spurs have is Antonio Conte. We know he gets teams playing well and playing fantastic stuff. They will play their 3-4-3 system. And when you've got Kane, Kulusevski and Son in a front three, you're always going to be up there competing for at least top 4. And I think they will compete for top 4. But I think they will just miss out. I do just think the teams around them have done better business and will just be slightly stronger than Spurs this season. And that's no disrespect to Spurs, because I think they will be good this year. But I think they will just miss out. When you look at their key players, it's hard to look past either Son or Kane to be their key player. They are both absolutely fantastic players. I am going to go for Harry Kane, though. When you have a player like Kane who can create, can score goals, he's kind of the heartbeat of that team, it's hard to say he isn't going to be their key player. So, for me, Harry Kane is Spurs' key player. As we move into 4th place, and I've got Arsenal, and I think they've done absolutely brilliantly this summer. I think Gabriel Jesus and Zinchenko with Fabio Vieira as well. I think that's great business. Getting rid of Lacazette, again, bit of great business. Lucas Torreira looks like he's going to leave. And Guendouzi, of course, has left. I think generally Arsenal have had one of the better transfer windows. I think, look, they got so close last year, and that's kind of without even having a proper striker. Lacazette was such a disappointment last year for them. I think you look at all these young players that they've got the youngest squad in the Premier League last year. These young players are a year older. They're going to get a year better. And I think they're just slowly but surely building. I like the project that Mikel Arteta has done. I think Arteta's a great manager. I think he's built a really good squad. You can see what they're trying to do. I think they will stick with that 4-2-3-1. Thomas Partey will be so crucial to this team. We saw when he went to the AFCON last season how much of a drop-off we saw. I think Arsenal do need a signing or two more. Maybe a backup for Thomas Partey. However, I think if Thomas Partey can stay fit with a back four of Ben White, William Saliba, Gabriel and Zinchenko, that's a great back line. I think with a front four of Odegaard, Saka, Martinelli or Smith Rowe, whichever one plays off the left, and Gabriel Jesus, they will score goals. They will be such a threat. I think they'll get fourth, and I think they will be pushing for the Europa League spots. I really, really do. Now, in third place, you can call me a bit biased, but I'm going for my team, Manchester United. I just think we've got one of the better squads in the league. I think signing-wise, Terrell Malacia, Christian Eriksen, Lisandro Martinez, they're 3 done deals. I think they are great deals to have got done. I think we will still get Frankie de Jong. And while we have lost a lot of good players in the likes of Pogba, Mata, Matic, Lingard, Cavani, I do think you look at this squad, I think we've got better. We've got a proper coach now in Erik ten Hag, and we're already starting to see kind of what Erik ten Hag wants to do with this Manchester United team, and that's really, really positive and encouraging to see. I think there's no doubt Erik ten Hag is a fantastic manager. And if you look at this squad, I think, let's be real here, this squad over the last 3 years has got third and second under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, who we all agreed was a terrible manager. Now, this squad now under a proper coach who will drill them and get them playing good stuff. If we can come third and second, what's stopping us from coming third again? I think you're looking as a team as well. We're starting to see the better of some of our better players. Anthony Martial in pre-season looked absolutely fantastic. Jadon Sancho looked a star. And I think if especially you get Frankie de Jong in, that midfield could be a brand new looking midfield. And I really do think the expectation for Manchester United this season should be third place and to win the Europa League. And I think we can do that. We can do both of them comfortably. When it comes to formation-wise, it looks like we will go for the 4-2-3-1 at the start of this season. However, maybe a 4-3-3 as well. Ten Hag likes to use either or. But I think at the start of the season, we'll probably, against Brighton, for example, we will use that 4-2-3-1. I think a key player for us will be Jadon Sancho. I think he looked a star in pre-season, and I think he will continue that on this year. And I think Jadon Sancho will be our key player going into this season. Now, in number 2, I think, unfortunately, we're going to see Liverpool. I think they've signed fairly well in Darwin Núñez, Fabio Cannavaro and Calvin Ramsey. I think Sadio Mane leaving is a big miss for them. However, look, Liverpool are Liverpool. They'll continue to be strong. They'll continue to dominate football matches, dominate teams. And look, they got to a Champions League final last year. They're not going to completely fall off, are they? They're a good team. Yes, they'd probably want to make another signing or two. However, I think regardless, they're going to be strong. They're going to be the team pushing for that number 1 spot alongside Manchester City. And while I don't think they will do it, I think they'll do all right. And even you look at some of their signings, Darwin Núñez is certainly the risk of their transfer dealings. What if he doesn't do well? Well, they bring in Jota, they bring in Firmino to play that number 9 role. I don't see a way in which Liverpool aren't strong this season and aren't pushing Man City all the way like they were last year. For me, Liverpool will just about come second. I think their 4-3-3, we know how strong it is. They'll continue to use it this year. With Mohamed Salah, of course, being their key player. The man scores goals, the man can create. And that was evident by the fact he got Golden Boot and most assists last season in the Premier League. Liverpool will be strong. I just don't think they'll be strong enough to compete with the citizens in Manchester City. Signings-wise, I think as a window goes, I don't think they've been that great. Haaland, Calvin Phillips and Ortega are great pieces of business. Julian Alvarez, of course, now officially joins the club, having signed for them in January. However, their sales are what concern me. Sterling, Zinchenko and Gabriel Jesus, I think they're all three of them are first team players, and I do worry for that Manchester City team when you perhaps have players that like a Haaland who might be struggling. Who do you bring on to make a difference? I'm not sure. Are we going to see kind of like a Palmer breakthrough into the first team? Because I'm not sure he's ready. And just what I would let's set a picture here. Haaland, Mahrez and Foden. Let's say that's their front three. Let's say all three of them are underperforming. What do? You bring on a Grealish, who hasn't been great. You bring on a Alvarez, but then who else do you bring on? And I worry that could be a slight downfall when it comes to maybe going for the Champions League and going for all the competitions. But I do think, look, over a 38 game season, once again, Man City will just be the strongest of the lot. They will get through. Now, Man City, of course, will play that 4-3-3 system, which is just perfect for them. A midfield of Rodri, Bernardo Silva and Kevin De Bruyne should be illegal. It's so good. And when you have a Kevin De Bruyne and a Bernardo Silva, who are so creative, so good technically, and able to put the ball into the box as well as they can, and you've got Erling Haaland attacking it, I think it's hard to put it past them to be scoring loads of goals and to win so many games of football this season. So for me, they have to win the league. And when it comes to a key player for them, I think it is hard to look past either Erling Haaland or Kevin De Bruyne. But I will go for De Bruyne because the things that man can do, he can grab the game by a scruff of the neck, can score screamers, can score absolutely audacious goals, but then can also put the ball right in the head or a foot of an Erling Haaland. And I think that's something that no other team really has. Obviously, you look at Liverpool, they have Trent who can whip in a delightful ball. But I don't think he's as good as Kevin De Bruyne is at it. And I think you'll certainly get more goals out of De Bruyne. He will be my key player for me. So with that now being the final Premier League table, let's get into our personal and player awards. So my PFA Player of the Year, I'm going to go with Erling Haaland. I think the man's going to score loads of goals. I think with being a new signing, I think the British media will love to give it to him. So I think it will go to Haaland. PFA Young Player of the Year, I'm going to go for Jadon Sancho. I said he would be last year and massively disappointed. I don't think he will this year. I think in pre-season, Ten Hag is certainly getting the best out of him. And I think if that can continue, if Manchester United are to get third and he's going to be a key player in doing that, I don't see what stops Jadon Sancho from getting that PFA Young Player of the Year award. I think I'm very, very impressed with Sancho. PFA Young Player of the Year for me, Jadon Sancho. Signing of the season. Now, with PFA Player of the Year going to Haaland, you'd expect me to say Haaland, but I'm going to go for Gabriel Jesus. I think they've signed him for a great fee. With Haaland, I believe a release clause comes into his contract in 2 or so years, whereas Jesus doesn't have that. He's a great young player who will score goals, suits perfectly how Arsenal will look to play instantly, where I don't think Haaland particularly does that as much. I think there's more of an adaptation to Haaland's game needed than there is Gabriel Jesus. I think if they sell him on in a year or so, it'll be for a large profit. And I don't think they will do that. I think he'll be there for years and years and years. We'll see Arsenal take a big step forward from what they were last year. I think he's a great signing. Gabriel Jesus, my signing of the season. Top goal scorer, look, I've kind of suggested it already. It's going to be Erling Haaland. When you have Bernardo Silva, when you have Cancelo, you have Kevin De Bruyne, you have Phil Foden, all there to set up chances for you. You are going to score bags of goals. And I think you look at the other teams, you look at potentially Liverpool. Their goals will be way more spread out in the likes of Salah and Darwin Núñez, whereas Haaland will kind of be that main goal scorer for them. So, Haaland, my top goal scorer. And top assister, I'm actually going to go for Trent Alexander-Arnold. Unlike with Man City, where their creators are kind of diversified, I think Trent is their main creator for Liverpool. And he will get assists for Salah. He will get assists for Darwin Núñez. Will get assists for Luis Diaz, Diogo Jota, Roberto Firmino. I don't see how he doesn't. He's proven over the last, 3 years. Say what you want about his defending, but going forward, delivering crosses into the box, he's fantastic at it. He gets assists. He's dangerous with it. Top assister for me will be Trent Alexander-Arnold. Now, my flop transfer of the year will be Richarlison. Now, I do think Richarlison will generally do okay, but for the money they've spent on him, you have to do better than okay, don't you? I think Darwin Núñez, look, people think he will flop, and I know, obviously, on the thumbnail, that's who I've said will be the flop, but I think he will generally be okay. Richarlison, though, I think Núñez will be better than Richarlison, for example. I think Richarlison, as a bench player for £60 million, not great business. And when you're spending £60 million on Richarlison, you're expecting him to be a first team player, and the fact that I don't think he will be kind of suggests he has to be the flop for me. So Richarlison will be the flop transfer, and the flop of the season. And it hurts me and pains me to say this because I'm a big fan of his. But I do think he's going to be N'Golo Kante. I don't think Kante is the player he once was. I think it's kind of gone under the radar. The way his decline is the right word for it. He's not the player he once was. And I think people still kind of think he is. He's still a good player. But I don't think he'll hit the heights as he once was. And I could even see him being replaced come the end of the season, to be honest. He's a good player. Not the player he once was. So, for me, N'Golo Kante will be the flop of this season. Now, that is my Premier League predictions complete. If you have enjoyed, please do hit that like button below and subscribe if you are new and you haven't already. That would be greatly appreciated. And let me know down below your top 4, your bottom 3, and your PFA Player of the Year, Young Player of the Year, top goal scorer, signing of the year, top assister, flop, and transfer flop. You get the picture. Let me know yours down below. Anyway, like I said, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one in a bit. Peace.